But don't just look in your own domain. Look for ways folks have solved the problem in other fields as well. And then look even further afield. And then copy in order to create. Now, let me flesh that out. I went ahead and just put it all up. Let's take the problem of churches in the city. What I've said is population's growing faster. We're not reaching folks. I really do believe that our primary vehicle for reaching the lost is going to be through the local church. I don't think it's going to be through mass evangelism or anything like that. I think it's primarily going to be through the local church and various expressions of the local church on the college campus and other places. So, what are we doing in terms of adding churches? Well, we're not keeping up with population growth. We've got a system for adding, growing, planting churches. And it's pretty slow. Honest to goodness. We've averaged planting we've got 10 churches more on average than we did the year before. Population's growing by 100,000, we got 10 new churches. Just not going to work. We have been doing church growth or church planting by addition. How do you do it? By multiplication. I mean, go back and look at the book of Acts. If you read the book of Acts, what you see in the beginning was, and the Lord added to the church daily those who were being saved. And the Lord added to the church daily those who were being saved. And then about chapter 6, the language shifts, and the number of disciples multiplied. And from that point on, the language of the New Testament is the number of disciples multiplied. How do we go from addition to multiplication? Well, if I were trying to solve that problem, I'd look around and say, what church is doing a fantastic job of planting lots of churches? And I would figure out how they do it. The second thing I would say is, okay, other folks have solved the problem in other fields of multiplication. How did they do it? For example, about 60 years ago, how many McDonald's were there? Oh, somebody guess. One. About 60 years ago, there was one McDonald's. And now, it's one of the largest international corporations in the world. So, Sally goes to Russia. She can get a McDonald's. Yeah. Elmo's been to Taiwan. I bet you got a McDonald's while you were over there so that something tasted like back home. You know, how did they do that? Now, here's the big pushback. Oh, well, that's business. My sense is, now they figured out something that's important that we can learn from. And so let's figure out what they did, not because we want to implement it and take business practices into the church, but because we want to find out, how did they go in 60 years from one to millions? Folks, wouldn't it be great if we started with 600 churches in Houston now, and in 60 years we had millions? I would love the kind of growth for the church in Houston that McDonald's has had in the world today. So we want to learn, what did they do? But then, there are other things that multiply. Like my email box. It just seems to multiply. Anybody in here been sick this year with a virus? Thank you for that cough. Thank you for that cough. I see that hand. Yes. How do viruses spread? You know, viruses do spread, don't they? And they multiply quickly. So that somebody gets sick, and if it's a highly contagious virus, we send out all sorts of alerts and we get scared because we know how fast that can multiply. What can we learn from viruses about how they multiply? What can we learn from the mission field about what's going on in church planting movements? How can we take all these things and use them like ingredients to mix up a whole new idea? So find out how others have solved the problem, And then bring all of these things like ingredients to a chef. You realize it doesn't make any difference. Hey, Trey, how many notes in a scale? 7? Okay, and you got your white notes and you got your black notes, but you add your white notes and your black notes together and you still ain't got that many, right? But you can take those same notes and you can do a symphony by Beethoven or chopsticks. It all depends upon how you combine it. Well, the mind is extremely inventive and creative. It sees patterns and connections between things that may not seem to be connected at all. Let's just have a little fun. See if you can see some of the creative connections.
Just a moment.
Okay, who would have connected Beethoven's Moonlight Sonata with Happy Birthday? I sure wouldn't have. But he was able to do that because he saw connections between things that didn't seem to exist. Just like the creation of basically the circular saw. A saw band wrapped around a spinning wheel, and a Quaker lady saw that. And Tabitha Babbitt saw connections that nobody else could see. So, these borrowed ideas become ingredients for a new idea. 1448, Gutenberg invented the printing press. You know where that idea came from? Well, he borrowed from a lot of different places. An agricultural press. He borrowed some stuff from metallurgy. There were about 5 or 6 different things that he borrowed from in order to create the printing press. Now, prior to that, all manuscripts essentially handwritten. But he came along and revolutionized the world by combining elements from various things in order to create the printing press. By the way, this is 2011. Anybody know what this is the 400th anniversary of?